You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. It's the Tuesday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Bet365. Nick Alberga and an almost 40 Jay Rosehill who celebrated his 40th birthday over the weekend. How are we feeling, Rosie?
That I did. Yeah, it was quite the weekend, quite the crew, and I'm still in a little bit of a fog today, but shaking it off. It was a blast, and thanks to my wife for planning her all out. It was unexpected and pretty awesome. So yeah, feeling good otherwise.
Was that a bit of a surprise? Because I noticed a bunch of your friends were there. Your brother was there. Was that a surprise? Or you knew everybody was going?
Well, it was supposed to be a full-on surprise, but I was like signing up for golf tournaments that weekend, and she's like, oh my God, I can't handle this. And then I hated the idea of like, she's like, okay, meet me at the airport at 8 a.m. And I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I need to know where we're going in some semblance of a way. I need to know what to pack. I need to know what to expect. I need to know who's going to be there. Is this just me and you? Is there some friends? Is there some, I hate it. And I'm like, hey, this is supposed to be my special week. I'm not loving the setup. Can you please tell me what we're doing? And she finally broke down and did, but everyone's different. She loves the surprises, and I just can't stand sitting there going, I have no control or no idea or no thoughts about what's going on this weekend. So thankfully she told me. There's some other little surprises along the way, but no, all my good friends and brother and everyone else, good crew showed up, whoever could make it, and we had an absolute blast. So thanks for that.
No surprises for Jay Rosehill. Just keep that in mind moving forward. Our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and third in the world. News to you, you missed absolutely nothing. It's been very, very quiet on the Maple Leafs front. It really feels like August, but it's July 8th, and maybe it just shows you there's not much out there, but we're waiting for the next shoe to drop. It just doesn't feel like that's coming anytime soon here with Toronto Maple Leafs, unfortunately.
Yeah, I kind of feel you with that. I keep tabs on things and see what's going on, and it's just all quiet on the home front, which is nice when you have to step away for a day or two. But I don't know, man. I think we talked about this and we prepared for this, and we said there's not going to be some, hammer dropping that shocks everyone. I guess we're kind of waiting for maybe some trade that comes out of nowhere that True Living could pull the trigger on, but I don't really hear any rumblings about that. I don't hear any rumors. I don't see that on the horizon. So a little bit of the dog days of summer, yes, but keep in mind that does change quickly, as I think we found out at the end of trade deadline, for example, when we just thought she was all wrapped up, and then bang, bang with the Carlo trade, for example. So we'll see what happens, but keep the ball rolling while she's quiet.
What I can tell you is that Matias Maccelli, who came over from Utah about a week and a half ago, did meet the Toronto media on Zoom for the first time on Monday. Says, I'm super excited for this opportunity to play for the Leafs next year. Can't wait to get going and get into the city of Toronto and to meet everyone there. Super excited. It has been a theme with all these newcomers. They've got the passion and are excited to be Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know if it's a full-blown troll job, but you don't have to say much to endear to the Toronto fan base right now, given the departure of one specific player. But where do you foresee Matias Maccelli fitting, at least to start? I know he was asked about potentially playing with Austin Matthews. He said, I would definitely love that. What else is the guy going to say? Playing with a guy like that would be great. Ideally, we've been talking about this since the trade went down. I think he has to start. Not has to start, but I think a good fit, at least to start, would be with Tavares and Nylander on line two.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't mind him starting on line two and kind of getting his feet wet. Again, he probably felt it the other day, where you come to this market and it's just like, geez, there's a lot of weight behind this thing, right? You can feel that it's palpable, and he's probably getting used to it. Then all of a sudden you got to go perform. Then maybe you didn't have like the best camp or preseason or something. And then you're hearing, am I hearing rumblings about me not being like, it can get crazy here. So put him in a situation for success. And I don't know if that means throw him up with Pappy and with Nyzy right away. Maybe that's the best way to give him success. I mean, he's a disher. Even my kids asking me who's going to play with Matthews and Nyes with the departure of Mitch Marner. So maybe that is the best spot for him to have success. But again, I don't know if they'll toss him right into the fire, if that's even considered tossing him into the fire. But what I do know is that he's a disher. He likes to be a playmaker, likes to pass. There's a departure of a good passer here, and people are asking who's going to feed Pappy the pill. So I think he will have time with that line without question. But if he starts off with Willie and JT, I'm sure he'll have opportunity for success there as well. At the end of the day, I just hope that when we see him play, and you talk about the passion, but like some confidence and some competitiveness. And I just hope, as you do when anyone comes into your team, that he kind of exceeds expectations and there's more to him than we even thought. The fact that he's excited to be here and ready to get rocking, as everyone would say that, but you hope he comes out firing and everyone gets behind him and makes it easier for him to make the transition into Toronto.
In support of Sick Kids, Tammy, our favorite, Tammy sends us a super chat. We got to stop the press and stop the show right now. Shout out to the July birthdays. Mine is today. Rosie, can you wish Sammy a happy birthday, please?
Tammy, where you been? Forgot about you for about a week there. Here she is roaring back your birthday. Congratulations. Happy birthday. Ours are fairly close. It's not the big 4-0, is it, Tammy?
We don't know how old Tammy is, and you shouldn't ask a woman her age. So
who cares? She's not the one that said that she dated.
No,
right?
that's Lisa different. Grinton, our girl Lisa Grinton. Tammy's just a day oneer. Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, Tammy. Thanks a lot.
Love that. We got two blockbuster guests on today's show, Rosie. Rear Admiral from Spittin Chiclets and Barstool's coming up in about 5 minutes here. And we also have Mitch Marner's new head coach, Bruce Cassidy of the Vegas Golden Knights, coming up in about 20 minutes here.
I know, Nikki. What a pull on today's show. Who said
no
it
summer
was the
for us, buddy?
Dog days this summer, not for this pod, baby. I love it. It's going to be fun to pick their brain. I'm going to rub it in about the Boston Bruins a little bit to RA, and then it'll be fun to see what Cassidy's outlook is on one Mitch Marner and the state of their team in general. I'm sure he's fairly excited.
Yeah, we've got a very Boston theme to today's podcast with RA, and then Bruce Cassidy, if you recall, spent many, many years with the Boston Bruins, who seemed to be in a rebuild. Like, it was a very interesting July 1 for that team. Gave Tanner Jeannot like 5 years and like 3.6 or 3.4, whatever it is, per season. Bit of a baffling deal. In support of Sick Kids, Dr. Greg O'Neill, thank you so much for the super chat. Rosie hates surprise as much as Paul Marner loves sticking it to the Leafs. How do you feel about that?
No surprise seeing Paul front and center in that with a Marner jersey around him.
Have we talked since that?
I don't think so, but
what do you think of that?
There's just like I've seen a lot of psycho hockey parents, and I've heard of a lot, and I've played with a lot of players who have had a bit overly invested parents, but nothing to the level of Paul Marner. And it is no shock that he is the one front and center at the press conference. He's got the Marner jersey wrapped around his arm. He said something dumb too, where Mitch had to say, and that's my dad down there. I don't know. Everything about that guy just seems way too invested in his kid's career, which no shame in supporting your kid, but that guy seems to be a little bit of a weirdo, if you ask me.
No comment. But yeah, I thought it was interesting to see the entire family there in Vegas. And as we've brought up time and time again, only fitting, the NHL schedule set to be released on July 16th, the 40th birthday of Jay Rosehill. So we're going to have a birthday special, and we're going to have a chance to look at the schedule for the first time and maybe pinpoint the second ever nation vacation, which at this point has to happen in Vegas, I think.
Well, yeah, we were looking at that before this Marner thing even went down. So all the more reason looking forward to that. Besides my birthday, it's we're going to see if we can plan a nation vacation around the first showing of doesn't have to be, well, they only go there once, right? So yeah, we gotta nail that thing. I think all the stars are aligning for that. I think that'd be an absolute blast for more reasons than one.
Hell yeah. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit the Leafs Nation The following interview/segment is brought to you by our good friends over at Greta Bar YYZ, the ultimate hangout spot in Toronto. Whether you're catching the big game, diving into some classic arcade action, or grabbing some unreal street food, Greta Bar's got you covered. For more info, head on over to gretabar.com. That's gretabar.com, 590 King Street West. Greta Bar, let the games begin as we try to connect here with RA. But what's been your overall sense here of the offseason thus far here, Rosie, in terms of activity? Nikolai Ehlers goes to the Carolina Hurricanes. We sort of saw that coming. And as you talked about off the top, we didn't expect much here from the Maple Leafs, and that's exactly what transpired.
Yeah, basically what we're seeing. Way too much Marner talk, but I guess that's to be expected. It'll be nice to get the season going and move on with Mitch. Let him do his thing in Vegas, and we can move on with our lives here in Leafs Nation. So we'll see what transpires. But yeah, a bit of an underwhelming summer, as we mentioned. But with great guests like this, we always make the most of it.
Certainly, not here just yet. Oh, we have him actually, I believe. Oh, there we go. We got him on the screen now. Happy to bring in from Spittin Chiclets. I wasn't looking at the screen, man. There's just so many boxes on our screen, but we're bringing in now from Spittin Chiclets and Barstool. It's Rear Admiral. What's going on, RA? How are you, bud?
What's up, boys? Only a couple guys get me out of bed this early, so I figured I'd get up and have a little Leafs talk with you.
Oh, I love it, man. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been interesting, and I think from the Boston-Toronto perspective, the rivalry has changed quite a bit, I would say, in the last couple of years, right? Where it was like two perennial juggernauts, and now it seems like Boston's retooling a bit, eh?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I wasn't in favor of like this sort of tear down rebuild. And Sweeney, he certainly gets his criticism here in Boston, but I thought what he did was kind of masterful toward the end. Just bit the bullet, said, all right, these guys that either UFAs or veterans get something for them. And he really did build for the future. Ended up getting a great pick in Hagens at the draft. So I think he set him up real nice for the next couple of years. I think the fans should probably expect a bit of a holding pattern here as far as Boston, maybe squeaking the playoffs, maybe not, but building towards the future down the line a little bit. In Toronto, you guys, huge loss. I mean, Marner's not a guy you easily replace. Nick Roy's a great pickup. He's a veteran that, I think Berube will love. I think the fans will love him, but Marner's not a guy you easily replace. But I think you guys are definitely ahead of the Bruins still. I mean, you gave Florida the toughest punch of the playoffs last year, but for, a dirty hit on their goalie, may well have moved on. So for probably the first time in a long time, we could say maybe Toronto's here, Boston's here as far as the rivalry, Nick.
All right, you've got some rose-colored glasses on. A masterful plays by Boston.
Just a deadline.
I'm a little worried about you guys, but all right, I like the positivity. But losing Marchand, obviously, the first time we saw him in a Panthers uniform, it looked weird, man. And obviously, for him to go off and have the success as the player he is, I don't think people didn't expect him to have some success where he went. But to see his departure, did you have any hope of getting him back on July 1? Was there any buzzes about him coming back to Boston?
I didn't have much hope on it. I think there might have been a little bit of scuttlebutt, but I think the fact that he wasn't able to re-sign and they had to part ways with him, I think that was pretty indicative. He probably wasn't going to come back. I know we've seen players, get traded. I mean, I think a big Walt back in the day getting traded to Atlanta. I think they were one and done, and then he went back to St. Louis. But it was a bummer to see him go. But I mean, fans complaining. It's like, when they get rid of him, we say we might get a first round out of this 37-year-old injured guy who definitely has some miles left. But it was sad to see him go, and I wasn't necessarily, rooting for anybody in the Cup this year as opposed to last year, which I was all go Panthers, as we know. But I was just enjoying it, and if I love Marchand, what he did here. I got to know him a little bit, living across the street from him and stuff, and I was, very happy for him. He solidified his Hall of Fame resume even more. But to criticize the Bruins for, we only got a first round, I don't think anybody thought he was going to go off to the extent he did. Although it shouldn't have been too surprising with his skill level being on the third line and having, taking advantage of matchups there. But it's sad here, but I don't know. After Bobby Orr being in a Blackhawks uniform, there's nothing worse than that. So I can't cry my beer too much over here, Jay.
That's fair. And RA, there were some wild rumors as July 1st got closer and closer. And I think this is the biggest troll job yet, that I think a lot of Leafs Nation, at least myself, believed there was a chance Brad Marchand was going to become a Toronto Maple Leaf. Do you think there was any chance in hell this guy was even thinking about being a Maple Leaf?
Stop listening to those bullshit podcasts. We're making up rumors.
I know, eh?
No, all jokes aside, I'm sure, like, he probably took calls. I mean, that's what you do. That's what your agent does. You hear everybody out. You see, sometimes you get blown out of the water, like the Bruins were with David Backes years ago. But I don't think there was any real chance he was going to go there. I mean, especially after winning the Cup in Florida. They're primed for a dynasty right now. I mean, I think you could even say, you go to 3 Cups in 3 years and win 2 of them. And with the modern standards and the cap the way it is, I would have any issue calling them a dynasty now. I know typically it's usually 3 championships, but to go there, of course, I know the no state tax thing is a big thing people talk about, but I don't think it mattered much with Marchand. He's a guy who took less essentially his whole career here in Boston to build a winner. And it reminds me of the quote Sid Crosby said on Chiclets years ago. And, it doesn't work. The paraphrasing it, but it doesn't work if everybody doesn't take less. You know what I mean? Like some guys have to take less dough, and Marchand did that for years here, and Florida still got a pretty good bargain with them. But he's definitely going to be missed here. I'll tell you that.
Talking about the deadline too, a pickup that came in at the 11th hour from Tree Living that I don't know if a lot of people saw was the Leafs picking up Brandon Carlo, obviously very talented right-handed defenseman. What was your thoughts on Carlo's time in Boston, and what do you think the Leafs fan can expect for him in his first full season coming up here?
I loved Carlo here. He was real physical when he started, but then he had some concussion issues, which, you got to be careful in this day and age. I think, fans in Boston, obviously, when you're a big guy, big defenseman, they want to see you drop the puck. Yeah, drop the gloves a little bit more. But he had to be really careful the last few years. I think they could expect a really solid, middle pair guy, probably bottom 4 guy even sometimes. But he's one of those defensemen, Jay, where if you don't see him do anything, it means he's doing his job, kind of. You know what I mean? He'll pinch in offensively here and there, but basically he's really good in his own end. He shuts down plays. He just kind of snuffs things out before they really happen. And good on the penalty kill. I think Leafs fans are going to like him. Just a solid, dependable defenseman. Like I said, if you don't notice him, it means he's probably doing his job well.
How was that deal perceived in Boston? Because we were live when it happened. We're like, holy shit. Like, A, Carlo got dealt, and B, was to the Maple Leafs, who are in the same division. How is the deal being perceived? And obviously you got a pretty good prospect in Fraser Minton, too.
Yeah, I think it was well received here. I think, again, Carlo's going to be probably gone anyways. We were expecting a whole bunch of guys to get traded. And, Minton's a pretty good prospect. So I think people here are fine with it. Again, Carlo, I think in the city, like, a lot of the Hato fans here, they get on, like, again, big defensemen, or if they think they're quote unquote soft. And Carlo, anything but soft. Again, he had concussion issues, so he had to kind of change his style a little bit, not be as maybe reckless. But people here like the deal. I think the most fans did like Carlo here, but it certainly wasn't on the level of Marchand. But I didn't hear too many people crying about that deal. Again, we got a pretty good prospect out of the deal.
Mm-hmm. You talked about the retooling that the Bruins have done here. What's your prediction on them? Are they making the playoffs this season coming up?
I'd call it probably a coin flip. I think they're going to be significantly better. I think Marco Sturm was a great hire. I know he hasn't been an NHL coach yet, but he's had a pretty steady progression. There's a lot of scuttlebutt that he's a pretty good coach. And I think most importantly, Jeremy Swayman's going to have a full training camp. The team's not going to dick him around over a small amount of money once again to delay his, getting to the team and not having a camp. And, then obviously the team wasn't that great anyways. They fired the friggin' coach. So I think the whole season started askew for Swayman last year. I think that's going to be the opposite this year. And if he plays to the level that we're expecting him, I think they could squeeze in, to a 7 or 8 spot. I mean, they obviously they waved the white flag early this year, but they made a couple of decent moves. I mean, Arvidsson, he's again a middle 6 guy. You can kind of plug him in wherever. But there's a lot of parts with Boston. You just don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Guys like McAvoy, obviously Pasternak, Swayman. That's 3 guys you can build around right there. So I think they should get in, Jay. But if they don't, no surprise. And if they don't, I hope they tank again and try to get McKenna.
Yeah, that's the big conversation. It sounds like a lot of teams don't want to sign offer sheets right now because of the potential of a Gavin McKenna, out there. And it sounds like he's going to, go over to college, the NCAA, as soon as today. But more on Marner. Obviously, there's a lot of intrigue around the division too. How weird is it going to be for you as a Bruins fan, playing against the Maple Leafs, not seeing the familiar number 16 out there? And what did you make of everything and how it went down with Marner and his exit here from Toronto?
I felt bad for him in some ways because, he was definitely the whipping boy there. I mean, obviously there's valid criticisms. I mean, what was it, 8-10 years? They didn't get too far in the playoffs at all. Obviously never got too close to a cup. And, he had to go chase the money elsewhere. I think if Toronto probably years ago, I mean, this isn't a knock on Tavares, but they, probably should have spent that money on defensemen and maybe, some more depth guys. And then maybe they would have had money to keep Marner now. But yeah, it's going to stink to not have him, visiting the Garden a couple times a year and seeing him, because he's a treat, man. He's a hell of a player. It's great to watch him play. Again, I know the criticisms are warranted, but I think they were way overboard, and doing an interview in the streets. And I know people are so friggin' angry and miserable about everything everywhere now, but like, oh, F him, like, screw him anyways. It's like, man, have a little gratitude with this guy, he came here, he played his ass off for you. He's a dynamic player. He's going to a great team, and you don't have to root for Vegas now. But I thought there was a level of disrespect that wasn't commensurate with what he did for the Maple Leafs in the last decade or whatever.
Do you think he's going to have more success in Vegas than he had in Toronto, personally?
Oh yeah, yes, I do. They built like it's sort of like they did it in a lab somehow. They built like a winning culture like instantly in that place, and they're ruthless. They're mercenaries as far as bringing this guy. Yeah, this guy won a cup for us last year. Out the door. We got to try to win another one. I mean, that's what you want as a fan of a team. But I think Marner's going to have a hell of a year. He's on a team that knows how to win. And I think guys around him, maybe will get in his ear a little, maybe that other guys weren't in Toronto, as far as, hey, buddy, it's the playoffs, man. You got to let your balls hang a little bit more. You got to be a little bit tougher. And I think he'll definitely have success there. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has a monster year out there, what they have, especially the way, I mean, I don't know if he's going to play with Jack or not, but the way Jack Eichel's been playing the last couple of years, he's finally become that, not finally, but that dominant forward that we've been expecting, the level he's at now. Yeah, Marner could have a monster year if he does play with Jack.
We're going to find out if he plays with Jack, as Bruce Cassidy's coming up on this show in about 10 minutes from now. But I just want to wrap by asking the other side of the equation, the Maple Leafs. Do you think there's a scenario, is there a pathway where the Maple Leafs finally unlock something they haven't unlocked in the Stanley Cup playoffs without Marner?
Yeah, absolutely. He's one guy. I mean, it's a huge loss once again, but, they brought in Nick Roy. They brought in Matias Maccelli. I thought that was a pretty solid move. But, the biggest thing we got to talk about is, your goaltender, your number one goaltender getting hurt in the playoffs last year, Stolas. And he was lights out. I thought he was a great sign of you guys. And honestly, could have went all the way with him and that. So losing him was huge. So, yeah, I expect if Stolas is there being healthy next year in the playoffs, you guys should 100% be back on the same position, hopefully battling Florida for the conference championship again, because it was a great series. Game 7 was kind of tough, but yeah, you guys, a huge loss with Marner, but I don't think it's one guy. It shouldn't be that much of a drop-off, and if your goaltending does what it did last year, man, Leafs should be right back at it.
All right, RA, looking forward to it. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
Seeing that mug once again. Have a great summer, and we'll talk soon, okay, bud?
All right, boys. Thanks a lot. Take care, guys.
Take care. That is Rear Admiral of Spittin Chiclets and Barstool Sports, breaking it down. Always unique to get that Boston perspective. That rivalry, Rosie, has been there as long as I can remember, even dating back to your time, scrapping Milan Lucic, right? Like it's one of the best in hockey still, and I'm curious to see what it looks like now. No Marner, and Boston's a much different team. Carlo's gone, Brad Marchand's gone, Chara's gone. Like, it's a new wave of Boston Bruins hockey too.
Oh yeah, it looked like there was some healthy positivity going there from RA. I thought he was going to be a little more sheepish on the state of the Boston Bruins right now, but kind of threw me off my opportunity to rub his nose in it after, obviously. Yeah. Bruins have had their number for more years than one, and it was going to get a leg up on it. He was pretty positive about the whole thing. I did not think what's going on there is masterful, and I think they're in trouble for a while, but maybe he knows something I don't. Time will tell, but thanks for him for getting up before 11 a.m. Is he on the East Coast and he's still talking about having to get up early at 11? I love it.
Well, I was gonna say something because I think he subtweeted on Instagram that he was coming on at 4 a.m. So he's a night owl like me. I get that, but it was 6.5 hours ago. Anyway, Slice it. Thank you to RA for dropping by. And I think the Bruins are unique, and I sort of understand the positivity from RA because they have some of the key ingredients. They have a top flight forward in David Pastrnak. They have a top defenseman in Charlie McAvoy. It's almost like the trident. And you have a number one goaltender in Jeremy Swayman. That's the one thing I will agree with. I think Swayman's going to have a really, really good year, a good bounce back year. Last year, there was the noise of getting the contract, signing the contract, starting late in training camp. So if you have those three pillars, I think it at least puts you in a spot to fight and have a conversation. And that's why I think there's maybe more optimism than we think in Boston right now.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe it's too hard
Yeah,
for him to win without getting a hug after every game, and he's missing
true.
that. I don't
Good
know,
point.
but no, those are three guys that you could build around, as he mentioned. I get it. And when you're talking about feeling like you're going to lose guys anyways, and just making the most of the situation, it makes it look like you unloaded a top player. I don't know. The Marchand thing with him. Like, I think he wanted to stay there, did he not? And he was shocked and surprised and didn't see it coming that he was moving. So, and then to go see what he had left in the tank. I mean, after what you saw at Four Nations face-off and whatnot, it's a tough one for Boston to lose him. But there's going to be some growing pains. I would not be surprised at all if they missed the playoffs again and had some tough road ahead of them. But like you said, they got some guys to build around if they can develop a little bit and use some of those picks. They'll be back on their feet. It's a quality organization, but like I said, it's nice to have a leg up on them right now. As you talked about, maybe the Leafs are a little bit higher. It's like,
Yeah,
boys, let's get serious here.
especially for what Boston got to get Brad Marchand. It was like a second that turned into a first. Obviously, the Panthers winning the Stanley Cup, but you think on the open market, you're probably getting more for Marchand. It just sounds like he wanted to be a Florida Panther, and I get it. He wins the Stanley Cup, gets a 6-year extension, $32 million, but it really sounded like Don Sweeney, the GM, lowballed him. And it sounded like the number was higher to stay in Boston, like they were discussing. He just wanted to be paid accordingly, and the Bruins wanted no part of it. But I think as we've learned, say, in the last decade, Rosie, and we have this conversation every year with Lister star players, like the faithfulness and the loyalty, and will he stay with the same team? I just don't think it happens anymore. Like, it's very, very rare. Whereas, like, of our vintage, I'll say, in our threshold in the 2000s, the 90s, it wasn't weird to see a guy stick with the same team his entire career. I just think it's changed quite a bit.
Yeah, a lot of things about the game have changed. You talk like,
Yeah.
it's always, I think it's always Jeremy Roenick that stands out to me when he's talking about, I was there as, a 20-year-old, and then I was a 23-year-old, and then I was a 25-year-old, and I was a 27-year-old. And the guys on the old school guys on the team who they've probably been there forever too are kind of like, you're better, you settle down there, buddy. You've only been in this league about 8 years, not 12. And it's just like, you got to pay your dues. And that was the whole thing back in the day. And it was hazing the rookies, and it was all seniority based. And I don't care how good you think you are, young fella, you're below me until I say so. And there's a lot of that going on. And that's kind of out the window in just general culture now. And these guys come out and they get paid based on their potential, not what they've already accomplished. And it's a little bit of a different dynamic, and you're going to see more guys have bad contracts or get money they don't deserve, or getting bought out and that type of thing. It's just a different beast nowadays. But yeah, it is a different animal. Guys are moving all over the place, and it's not exactly like it was back in the day. And things change. It's a cap era now, and we're seeing the effects of that.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I believe we're ready to go with guest 2 of 2 here on Leafs Morning Take, the Tuesday edition. Happy to bring in the head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights. It is Bruce Cassidy. Bruce, thank you so much for doing this. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Fantastic. What's the last week or so look like for you? Obviously, a lot going on in those parts in Vegas.
Well, yeah, I was out there. We had development camp. Get to know some of the younger players that will be our future. So that's always exciting time. Get back with the coaches. We had a little time off. Mitch was in town looking at houses with his family. So good to meet him face to face. Welcomed him to the club. And now back I spend my summers in Cape Cod. Had a great day yesterday. We have a foundation I'm involved with. The golf outing went really well. So had a couple of our guys out, Jack Eichel, Noah Hannafin, Ray Bork stopped by. So it was a good day for everybody. And yeah, now it's time to relax.
Sounds awesome. Bruce, what was your first thought when you found out that it was official that Marner was coming to your team?
Well, we've added another, really good player to the mix. So, talent wins, and it's the more you can get of it, the better. So excited. I've crossed paths with Mitch over the years when I was coaching the Bruins, obviously it's a playoff series. I was fortunate enough to be involved in the Four Nations, which he was a big part of. So we're excited to have him. I think he's going to add a lot to our team.
Yeah, what was that Four Nations experience like? Obviously, even seeing John Cooper the other day at the Calgary Stampede with the Four Nations Cup, just celebrating a bit. But what was that experience in general like? And obviously coaching Mitch there too.
Yeah, Coop was having fun. Good for him. Enjoying the summer.
Yeah.
Uh, we had got together earlier to do a little Hockey Canada review, so it's good to see those guys as well. And yeah, listen, it was a short tournament, so you didn't get to know the players as much as you'd like. I mean, these are the best guys in the world. You'd love to spend more time with them, but I enjoyed Mitch. He's, was a real nice guy. All the guys there were, Coop had a game plan. They're real coachable and were willing to follow it, and then let them be themselves, right? So I thought it worked out great. We ended up winning. It was a very entertaining tournament. I don't think anybody knew going in how entertaining it would be, but I love being a part of it, and got to know Mitch a little bit, and obviously we'll get to know him better now.
Yeah, Bruce, I always like to ask a coach of your caliber these kinds of things. Obviously, you're trying to build, a team who has an identity and a certain DNA, and Vegas is obviously no exception. I think they, play a certain style without question, but the players aren't robots at the same time. What's your philosophy on getting everybody on the same page, even though there's so many individuals on a team?
Well, listen, everyone is treated the same and everyone's treated differently, right? I know that sounds strange, but there's some non-negotiables. I think every coach would say they'd like to adhere to, whatever those may be. It's team first, it's discipline, puck management issues, practice habits, whatever. And there's other parts where certain guys are going to get more rope on the ice to be creative, because that's what they need to do, and that's what makes them at their best. So, and then you balance that with the risk reward, time and score, and hopefully those top guys recognize that part of it, that you can't be completely on your own page. So that's the way I've always felt. I think the skill guys need a little bit of room and will make some mistakes because they're creative, but they'll bring a lot more than they give up, right? So that's kind of how we try to balance it. And it's the same with the other end, like the bottom of the lineup players. So whatever their strength is, hey, if a guy's a physical player, he takes the odd penalty because he's a little too exuberant. Well, we got to live with that because he's a physical guy. So there's a little bit of that goes into every player. But at the end of the day, it's got to be team first. You play for the crest, and whatever's required from that. And that usually results a lot of times in probably time on ice, right? When you have a lot of good players, and you have to get them to understand that everyone has to have value on the team, and it might come at expense. A third or fourth liner, might need that extra minute or two, and it might come at your expense. And we've got to, that's the challenge of making those elite players understand that's what usually makes a team tick.
I'm always curious. A star player like Mitch Marner becomes available. You're the head coach. I mean, do you let George and Kelly and company do their thing? Are you advocating? Are you saying like, yeah, he's pretty damn good, I'd love to have him on my roster? What's your role in this whole thing?
No, listen, there's so many good players in the league. Listen, I'm paid to coach, right? Stay in your lane, do your job. If I'm asked about a player that I have an experience with, I'll give my opinion if I'm asked. But no, I've never been that guy. Maybe that's a product how I started a lot in the American League, and usually just, hey, here's your team, go to work, make it work. So that's how I approach it. Again, you're asked about a player or a need maybe on your team. Hey, this is where I feel like we could use an upgrade. I'll give my opinion, but I mean, look at the success Kelly and George have had. I don't need to get in their way.
True.
They know how to build a roster, and my job's to coach that roster. So that's not my area of expertise, and I try to stay out of it.
Sounds like a good partnership. In our market in Toronto here, I think we almost unexpectedly got a nice asset in return for Mitch, as we thought he might just walk in free agency, and we managed to get Nicholas Waugh back from you guys. And what can you tell us and the people in this market what we're getting in a player like him?
Well, he first of all, he's a great guy, great team guy, solid 200-foot player. On our team, he was predominantly a fourth line center because we always had guys ahead of him, but I know that he's capable of more. And even now we have, Carlson, Eichel, and Hurdle. So it's tough to move up. And listen, we've played Nick on the wing here or there, but I think his best position is center. Real big part of our penalty kill. He's good in the circle. Played in our second unit power play down around the net. So He's got skill for a guy that plays down in the lineup. I think depending on who you play him with, he can adapt his game. When we had a few guys hurt, he moved up, played with, I think it was Marchessault and Barbashev for a stretch, not this past season, the year before, and did a real good job, put up numbers. But at the end of the day, when we were a Cup champions, he was to me, a dominant fourth line center that, played with Will Carrier and Colasar and just did a great job of playing to our identity every time he went over the boards, and sort of good guy that could tilt the ice back in your favor in terms of momentum, and guy that started every period for us. He played late in games. So a lot of value for a guy that was listed as a so-called fourth centerman, but I believe, and I don't know exactly, he's probably around 14 and a half, 15 minutes for us every night. We used him in a lot of different situations. I don't know how it'll work out in Toronto. That's I'd be speaking out of turn to say anything, but I think he's a guy that could certainly move up in the lineup. Whether that happens or not, it'll be up to Chief to see where he best fits. But you're getting a really good player and a good person.
So, Bruce, you've coached plenty of stars in your great coaching career. How do you balance letting someone like Marner be creative while still holding him accountable?
Well, again, I think it's ice time. I've gone through this with a lot of different players over my career. It's my job to get him to understand what the team needs from him, and it's my job to understand what he needs to be successful. Right? Like you can't just hammer away on a guy and believe that he's just going to do it. Right? So I think there has to be, talked about it earlier, a good sort of feel for, okay, this is what I expect. This is what you need to do to be successful. You got to make those ideas intersect for the good of the team. So I'm not going to get into too much because Mitch has been with us for 8 days. So at the end of the end of training camp or the beginning of training camp, we'll sit down, go over. Here's what the team at the start. Here's what the team looks like. Here's when we're at our best, and that's just got to play out. He's a very successful player in this league. He just won a gold medal at Four Nations. I think that was good for every star player to see what it takes and the sacrifice. And so that's, that'll be the challenge. And I don't see it being a problem for us. I think Mitch wants to win. He's been close and hopefully brings us closer again.
Yeah, and last one for me. Obviously, there's nothing written in stone in this game, but in your mind, do you see Mitch playing with Jack Eichel off the bat?
Well, that's it's been asked that a lot. Who knows? There needs to be chemistry, first of all, and there might be some automatically, and there might be none. You never know. They're going to get an opportunity at some point, whether it's early on or later, to play together because you want to see what it looks like. Mark Stone was up there with Jack last year, pretty good hockey player, right? So we have Hurdle, we have Carlson. So he's going to get a good center. What's the best fit where he can play his game? They're both, I'll say this about Jack and Mitch, they're probably both distributors first. So it'll be interesting to see if they do play together. And I'm sure they will in situations, even if they're not in the same line, and see how that works out if, one of them becomes more of a shooter. But those questions will all get answered, as we go along. So, we'll see. I think they both be good for each other in the sense that they've left markets and now are teammates, after leaving partway through their career as star players. So Jack went through it here and Mitch is going to go through it. And I think Jack could be a real good shoulder to lean on in that regard. Mark Stone did it in Ottawa. So those are some things maybe off the ice and stuff that would be, Jack and Mitch will bond over. Whether they do that or not is up to them, but that's I'm sure that'll be discussed. And then moving forward, how it plays out on the ice again, I don't have an answer for you today on July 8th. I think we're in Toronto early on in the season, so we'll see how it goes by then, and probably have a much better idea how the two kind of complement each other on the ice.
Bruce, the schedule hasn't been released yet, so that's news to us.
Inside info, baby.
It hasn't come out yet, the schedule. That's insider info right there.
The first draft, because I wanted to see when the Olympic break was, right, to start planning things. So I think I saw us out there early on, but again, I'm 60, so my memory is not very good. So it might be later in the year. I don't know, but I thought it was early because don't forget, I'm from Ottawa, so I go see my family. So I always take a look at that one too, and it's usually right up there with Toronto. But anyway, that
Nice.
we'll be there sooner or later. That much I know.
It's going to be one of 82. It's going to be one of 82. We could tell you that. And we'll find out, I believe, July 16th, the official schedule. And you're so right. There's a lot of drafts that go out there, so nothing concrete just yet. I just want to wrap with asking you about the similarities. Are there parallels to draw between like somebody like Jack Eichel and Mitch Marner? I mean, you know this market pretty damn well. You're from Ontario, a lot of heat, a lot of criticism, Marner's departure and all that. But Jack Eichel, along those same lines, took a lot of heat, and you coached him to a Stanley Cup a couple years ago, right? So, like, do you think there's some parallels to draw? Do you think there's some things you learned in coaching Jack Eichel that you can distribute over to Marner now?
Well, there are some similarities, right? But I don't know. I can't speak for either player. What they exactly went through. I just know what I know from being in the hockey world. So when Jack came over, now Jack is a Boston guy, so he would skate with some of our guys with the Bruins before he left for training camp. So those guys, you say hello, they're on the ice with your guys, so you get to know them a little bit. His skating coach was our skills coach. He used for a lot of his, when he was a teenager, was our skills coach. So Kimmer had a lot of great things to say about Jack. So I guess there was a bit of a head start coming in with that. But listen, as I said, to what degree they're leaving the market? Is it, you guys fill in the blank. Yes, they have gone through some level of similarity. And as I said, I think Jack, if Mitch is going through certain things, emotions from leaving that market, I think Jack would be a great guy to talk to about it. For the reasons you just talked about. So will I use that? I don't know. I think it'll come naturally for those two. They're both adults, and they'll be able to go through some of that stuff. Teammates talk about different stuff all the time, and I think that'll be good for Mitch to have someone who went through it. How it lands on my lap, well, that depends on our relationship, me and Mitch. Does he want to talk about that, or is it just hockey? And those are things you learn about a player quickly, and whatever works for your relationship you use. So with Jack, we did talk about it a bit because we had a third party buffer a little bit, as I said, that helped us sort of communicate better. And I don't think I'll have any problem communicating with Mitch. I've like I said, cross paths with him, great guy. I think he just, he wants to win. He's a hockey player. That's the common goal we're going to have.
Well, Bruce, the tan looks great. Looking forward to July 16th, the schedule coming out. Appreciate your time and have a great summer, okay? Appreciate this.
Yeah, thanks. We had a family vacation to Greece, so we took advantage of the sunshine at the end of the year. So,
attaboy. Where'd you go in Greece?
Beautiful spot, beautiful part of the world.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Thank you.
Anytime. That is Bruce Cassidy, the head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights. 10's looking great. It's hilarious across the hockey world. As soon as the season concludes, you see the great tans out there. Even you, Rosie, some of the best tans we've seen on this show. But very appreciative of Bruce hopping on here and telling us a bit about the Vegas perspective of this whole Marner thing. And I do think that's a really good landing spot. Like Cassidy is a perfect example. He coached in Boston, now in Vegas. I'm sure it's not as turbulent. Wins a Stanley Cup. I think it was fair of me to bring up even Jack Eichel, right? When Eichel goes there, it's got the whole next situation. Bruce Cassidy gets his hands on him, ends up winning a Stanley Cup, and now Jack Eichel's known as a playoff performer. Not to manifest that out there, but it's true a bit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Mitchie going to Vegas. I think he was smart for choosing that market. For a lot of different reasons. They're ready to win now. They've got a lot of good supporting cast around him. I think if he went to other markets, he would be put on this pedestal again. And even though the market would certainly not be as big as Toronto's, the expectations would be there. He'd be expected to probably carry more of the water than anyone else on the team. And now in Vegas, I just feel like he can, he can just jive with the other players and figure out their style. And I'm just interested to see how much success he's going to have. He's a great player, so he's going to have a bunch of success. He's going to put up a bunch of points with the guys that he's playing around. He always did that in Toronto. That's not why he's not in Toronto anymore. I really want to, be interested to see how he plays in the playoffs. Does anything change? Was it us? Was it him? What is it? The same shit? Is some of that, Vegas style of play going to wear off on him? Is he going to have a big dip in the playoff performance once it gets difficult? I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to find out. And like I said, I think he was smart in choosing that destination for more reasons than just the man we just interviewed. Head on his shoulders, seems like salt of the earth guy, a guy you'd want to play with. And you can see through that interview why he's had so much success coaching where he has.
Hey, good question about Eichel, man. That was the number one question I had as a fantasy hockey player. Will Mitch Marner start the year on Jack Eichel's wing? And I think pretty elite point. They're both dishers. You need a finisher. Who's a finisher in the top six? Is it Mark Stone? Is it somebody else? Do you want three righties on the same line? There's a lot of questions, but certainly an embarrassment of riches. I think Vegas in general addressed their wing position and said, we want to be better at the wing, and you get the best free agent available in Mitch Marner. And I'm very, very, like, you're so right. A year from now, we're going to either discuss Mitch Marner finally breaking through in the playoffs, doing his thing, or it's the same old story. And he's got, 7 years left as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. But nevertheless, thank you so much once again to Bruce Cassidy. As mentioned, in Cape Cod with the family, taking advantage of some family time after a busy period with the Golden Knights, spending it with us here at Leafs Morning Take. Before we wrap, I just want to get your thoughts on Nick Robertson. We talked about him a bit yesterday. Obviously, you weren't here, but one of 11 players over the weekend to file for salary arbitration. Played 69 games this year, 15 goals, 22 points. I don't know what it is, and maybe it's just that feel because nothing's going on. Like, I see a pathway where, dare I say, Nick Robertson is back in Toronto, Rosie. Can you believe that?
He's a funny, it's an anomaly, man. I mean, he's likable for a lot of reasons, and he's forgettable for some other reasons. He just seems to be chipping away at the cusp of being a guy who's on this team permanently, but he's not really supposed to be a bubble player, right? Like, his skill set is supposed to be either you're good enough to play in the National Hockey League or you're not. And I've played with a million guys who are, capable, and then some guys who are like, it's just not quite there. And for that reason, you live in the American Hockey League or you go over to Europe. And Nick's a guy that just straddles that line so much. And consistency is a factor with him. He's got the ability to do good things, but just doesn't do them enough to warrant, multi-year contracts or to have a deal done with the Leafs right now, obviously, or to be a full-time member in the lineup or to jump up to this line and stick with them. It's just always not quite there. And, I don't know what's going to happen with them. I'm not sure if he's going to come back. It seems like, eventually his time might run out here unless things change, but it'll be interesting to see what the arbitrator says during this process, what he looks like and where he slots, and if anything changes in this coming season.
It's time now for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use code NATION. That's NATION, NATION. Must be 19 or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone, has a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca. I got to ride the Blue Jays again. Took them on the run line yesterday. I think they won by about 4. So I'm going to do it again. I'm doubling down on the Blue Jays. They've been on fire. They're playing the White Sox, who are just awful. Like, there's a couple of teams in Major League Baseball just have nothing to bring and have been that way for like 2 decades, it seems. But I like the Blue Jays run line again. I'm doubling down, Rosie.
Well, they sure are hot. I knew when I thought about the 365 segment coming up, it would have to be Blue Jay related. And I'm no Blue Jay man, but I know Berger is on fire, and I'm a big fan of Alejandro. So that's what I know. Let's get them. You're
You're an Al Kirk guy?
Yeah, man. I love that chubby little bastard.
I didn't know that.
Swinging out of his friggin' shoes. Looks like a beauty. I like watching him run around the bases too. So,
dude, it's wild. I watch Alejandro Kirk play baseball, and I'm like, how? But having said that, I was a plumper set back in the day, and I was the same type of thing. I could really swing it, man. He could control that bat. Had an off year last year, but back to his old ways, and calls a pretty damn good game behind the plate too. Just really can't run. He is very, very Benji Molina-like from back in the day. The Molina brothers, some of the slowest in the history of Major League Baseball, and the Jays are on fire. Everything they're touching is turning to gold right now, whether it's your boy Joey Luperfido getting the home run last night. Like, everything's coming up Blue Jays right now. The deadline's just around the corner too.
And how about fan of the show, recent guest with Scherzer getting close
he's back.
to being himself, to being a factor. So looking forward to seeing that, and just in general, looking forward to watching what does this translate into with the Jays. I didn't see. I mean, I get most of my info through you. You seem to think this whole organization was a dumpster fire coming into the season, and now they're like talking about being win the World Series. Is it sustainable? Is it a flash in the pan? Be fun to watch and see where things shake out.
Yeah, I clarified this last week. I think it's a very likable team. Do I believe in Atkins and Shapiro? I don't. Just because they've had, baseball is random like this. They have talent, and finally all the talent put together, like especially the big boys, are really, really producing, and everything's coming together. Has it changed my opinion on these guys? Probably not. I think they've grossly mismanaged a lot of situations, from Vladdy to Bo, across the board. So I wanted to clarify that. I think you can like the team and not like who's running it. I know I took a lot of heat last week for my feelings on Atkins and Shapiro. That's not going to change because they've had a nice little first half of the season here. So it's great for the city. I mean, hot weather, people are happy. I was at the game on Friday feeling good, and we'll see what they have in store here for the second half. Great show today, Rosie. Coming up tomorrow, my buddy Zach Dalpe, who played in the fourth line a couple years ago for the Florida Panthers, year one, when they went to the Cup final. They lost to Vegas. He announced his retirement yesterday. Really a story of perseverance. Mid-30s, really at the scratch and claw to play NHL games and make it to the NHL. A career captain in the American Hockey League, and a closet Leafs fan. We love that here at Leafs Morning Take. Zach Dalpe is going to drop by the show tomorrow. We're also pre-taping with Michael Pezzetta later on. We're going to figure out when we're going to play that Pezzetta interview, but lots cooking here at Leafs Morning Take, even though there's fuck all going on. It's pretty crazy, dude.
Yeah, keep her tuned here. We probably dumping more interesting stuff than anyone else at this difficult time of year, and looking forward to both those interviews. Thanks to the two guests today for their interview. I thought that was a bit of an eyebrow raiser that Cassidy came on to talk Leaf stuff after the departure and the tumultuous relationship. It was awesome. We thank him for that. Obviously, we kept it clean as always, but another good day considering how quiet the home front is in Leafs land. But thanks to those guys, and thanks for putting her together, Nikolai.
We've become a destination here at Leafs Morning Take, and I do believe that's the first media officially that Bruce Cassidy has done since they signed Mitch Marner. So, I haven't heard from him. I haven't seen him in Vegas. I don't think he was at the press conference. He did speak to Mitch Marner, he said, and they're looking at houses and all that stuff. But I think it's the first time officially on the record Cassidy has addressed Marner signing in Vegas. So I thought that was a nice little wrinkle. Again, as you mentioned, Rear Admiral dropping by, and we'll just monitor over the next couple of days, just from a programming standpoint. We're with you all the way through until Friday. Then next week, we start going 3 days a week. And then for the second half of July. So lots coming your way at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Rosie, before we go, our guy Emilio is in the chat saying Rosie. So can you respond to Emilio, please?
Emilio, you're catching me on a tough week, buddy. I'm still a little bit in a fog, but nice to see you're still listening, buddy. And I'll catch you on a real good one next time. I promise you that.
It's very half-assed. We'll bring it a bit more next time, Emilio. Appreciate it. Thank you to our two guests, Rear Admiral and Bruce Cassidy. Thank you to producer Vic. You can see him again on the sheet today. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga, and we'll talk tomorrow. Take care.
Emilio!
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.